Welcome to the Collector Cave, and today we have a review of a Grail figure for me in Grand Admiral Thrawn from Hot Toys. And just to set the stage, as you guys know, this channel is toy reviews, but it's also about nostalgia and what drives a lot of us to collect the way we do, to collect the figures we like. And for me, Star Wars played a big role in my life as a child. I grew up in the 80s for the most part. And so all my toys, my Star Wars was my go-to as a kid, playing with all the Star Wars figures. And as I got older, in my early teens, I stopped playing with toys and started getting out of Star Wars. I was getting older, and then Timothy Zahn wrote Heir to the Empire. And I want to show you guys something here, talk about nostalgia. This is an original edition soft cover that came out in June of 1992. And this is the original one I got. So this book's like 32 years old. You can tell it's beat up. I've read this thing numerous times. But this trilogy, this Thrawn trilogy, starting with this book, is what got me back into Star Wars as a young teenager. And I haven't stopped since. And so this holds a special place in my heart. Now, I'm not going to judge you for how you feel about Disney Star Wars. Personally, as someone that's in this age category, I didn't care for the sequels, not one bit. And so for me, in my headcanon for Star Wars, this is my episodes, 7, 8, 9, is the Thrawn trilogy. But we fast forward, and here we are. Disney did make a live-action Thrawn, which I was both excited and terrified for. I had my ideas of who I wanted to see play him. It wasn't Mickelson, but I think overall he did a good job. And you can talk about extended universe Thrawn versus Disney Thrawn, and I will go with EU version all day long. I still like this Thrawn, but I'm a Thrawn snob. I mean, my Instagram is Thrawn's Black Series art. That's how much of a Thrawn snob I am. So coming from me, this is how it is. So I would much prefer to have an EU version of Thrawn in my collection, which I know Sideshow made 1 year ago. But with that said, I'm taking this. I am super happy to have it, with the caveat that it's not EU Thrawn. Let's get that out of the way right away. So, Ahsoka, right? He showed up in Ahsoka. I liked the series. I didn't love it. I liked this Thrawn. I thought he was good, maybe not great. We need to see more of him. And part of it's my problem, being so close to the original books and how I think Thrawn should be. I think overall they did a good job. Not great, but good. But as I said, I'm happy to have this figure, so let's get into it. This is TM S116, and this is Grand Admiral Thrawn, and this is typical shoebox style Star Wars Hot Toys figure, and it has this band that goes across the whole thing, which is really cool, very nice. And on the back here, it just gives you some information. There's the officially licensed Disney product hologram. And this is from the television Masterpiece series. So they have a movie Masterpiece, and this is, of course, television, being Disney Plus. And then here's the sideband of Thrawn with the Chimera and that hyperspace ring. I have Scion, I believe it was called. I only watched the Ahsoka series once. I do want to watch it again. There's parts I didn't care for a lot of. I've never been a big Night Sisters person, and the whole Night Trooper, undead stormtroopers to me was just, I don't know, it was weird. It was a very weird path. Not the path I would have taken Thrawn. But yeah, anyways, let's get into this thing. I'm going to open this up and show you the interior box art as well. Okay, so when you lift off the box, the cover, you're greeted by this interior artwork. So you have the Thrawn figure, you have Captain Enoch, which they are making. And then some of these remnant troops, or whatever they're called, night troopers, I think, undead stormtroopers, whatever, weird. I think they're making one of those as well. Again, not my favorite, not my cup of tea, but it is what it is. But there is the cover, and it's a little tight to take out, but once you do, you're greeted by the figure. and it's kind of hard to tell, but we can zoom in a little bit. It looks like he has a headband on. That's just to protect the paint from the plastic. And then there's this hologram of the Chimera over this mountain he was in on the planet he was exiled to. Extra hands, a data pad. He does have movable eyes. However, no light up eyes, which I find a missed opportunity, being that Thrawn is a Chiss, and the Chiss are known for their glowing red eyes. And that's another point of contention with me is in the cartoon and in the movie, they gave him I guess retinas, right? In the book, in the original novel, I feel like it was just glowing eyes. It never mentioned like retinas, so I would have preferred just glowing eyes. But you know, that's what they chose to do. It's not terrible, but I think it should have been a light up feature, in my opinion. And then he comes with the blaster. Some of these code cylinders to denote his rank. Of course, he has his Grand Admiral garb on, which looks really good. Nice and white and clean and regal. So let's go ahead and get him unpackaged and look at everything he comes with in greater detail. All right, and here is Grand Admiral Thrawn and everything that comes with him in the package. And it's a fair amount of items. So we'll start here. He comes with this this tactical holograph board, and it's not designed the best, but as you can see, this is like when he was looking in the mountain and he was looking at the oncoming forces, and the Chimera is there with the hyperspace ring around it on that mountain. And so the way it works is, here's the disappointing part, is it's a 3M stick. So you got to peel this, and once you peel this, you will stick it to here. So it just goes in there and boom, you stick it. And once it's stuck, that's it. There's no going back. And then what happens is you plug it in right here. So it sits like that. So you could get some like lighting. Let me try and get some under lighting and see what this thing looks like lit up. So you could really get it to look like it's a lit up hologram board, which is really cool, as you can see here with the light. But this thing is actually pretty big. I'll have to measure the diameter, but to fit this inside a detail, you're going to lose probably a space for another figure. So I don't think I'll be displaying him with this. I think he'll look more regal without it anyway. But I guess it's a nice accessory that they gave you. And if I lower this, the detail on the Chimera, if we zoom in again, it's just a hologram, so it's hard to tell if it has the Chimera on it. But it's definitely his Star Destroyer. It's cool they used the Chimera from the books as well. If you look at the bottom of this, can you tell that it's got the Chimera emblem? You can't, because it's just a hologram. But still, you know, it looks pretty good. Nice detail on the Star Destroyer. On the Eye of Sion, I believe, is that hyperspace ring they were building to get him out of the unknown regions there where he was left. I think it was part of the unknown regions, that planet he was banished to or on. But yeah, so there's that. And then you got 5 additional hands. These ones are nice for putting together, like he's thinking. We'll do a shot of that. One of these is for, I think, holding the data pad. And then he's got a trigger finger for the blaster, and then just an open palm hand. And then here's the blaster. It looks pretty good. Pretty nice detail. If I do it this way here, you can see the detail in this blaster. It looks nice. I don't really equate Thrawn with the blaster, but he can fight. He's proficient in hand-to-hand combat. But for me, it's more of a genius level, right? Strategist. But it's still cool they have that. And then here's the data pad he comes with, which this is kind of more up Thrawn's alley. And there's actually some writing on there. What is it? A brush, I think they call it, the Star Wars language, something like that. So those of you that speak that or read that might be able to know what this says. You can pause and decipher it. Let me know what it says. It's pretty cool. And you can see it's been used. It's worn and weathered like George Lucas's used universe. So cool that it's beaten up. You can see some dry brushing there. It looks like there's metal coming through the paint. Yeah, really nice. And then he comes with this. He has 2 movable eyes, which I'm not really going to mess with, honestly. But this is how you move the eyes. You take the head off the body, and then this little device can go in to move the eyes the way you want them to be. I guess it's a nice feature for some. And then here are his code cylinders, which we'll put inside his tunic to denote his rank, part of his rank there. And then he also comes with a couple of small buttons which go on, I believe, the belt right there in case they come off the belt. They give you a couple you can glue back on. And then 2 wrist pegs, which I've never broken a Hot Toys wrist peg, but you get them, which is nice. And then there is the base. It's a reused base you've seen many times with some Star Wars figures. It looks like the Death Star decking, but this time it's painted black instead of typical gray, I believe. A lot of them are gray. And then it says Star Wars Grand Admiral Thrawn. And I'm actually glad it doesn't say Ahsoka on it. It just says Thrawn, and I think this peels off. It's a protective layer there. And I've already got the crotch grabber installed. It's a bigger size one as well. They've been doing bigger ones lately with Hot Toys. But yeah, there's that. And then the figure. Let's take a look at Thrawn. Now, as pristine white as this is, and it looks more white in real life than the camera, there is some dirt right here. And I watched another interview or review, and someone else had that. It's kind of beat up. And someone mentioned in a comic that his outfit was kind of worn a little bit, ripped in a couple spots. I never noticed that when I watched the movie. I would have preferred they didn't do this and just given me a full regal white suit. But there it is. And there is the fantastic head sculpt. It looks really good of Lars Mikkelsen, who portrayed Thrawn in the show. And we'll get a closer look in a minute. I am going to put some gloves on because I don't want to get my oils from my hands on this white uniform. And I will say, taking this thing out of packaging, there was a lot of plastic to protect any bleeding. So there was packaging, saran wrap around his wrists so the blue hands didn't bleed onto the white. There was wrapping that went all the way down. I had to pull the boots off to pull the plastic wrapping out so the boots wouldn't bleed onto the white uniform here. And there was also wrapping around the belt so the belt didn't bleed onto the uniform. Plus, of course, around the neck, which I did take off. So unfortunately, I expect this figure to eventually bleed through onto this white, which will be unfortunate. I wish there was a way these companies could figure out a way to not let these dyes and stuff they use bleed onto some of this stuff. But, you know, these aren't going to last forever. As nice as they are, as long as they will last, they will eventually break down just like every other toy that's ever been made. And the boots are a nice soft pleather. So we'll see how those hold up over time. I do have some, was it 303, I think, which you can use on stuff like this. I'm not telling you to do so. It's what I do with some of my stuff, and I haven't had any problems yet. But just an FYI to keep this stuff from cracking. Every once in a while, I put some of that on, like my Mezco Batman, the silicone, that kind of stuff. But let me get my gloves on, and we'll take a closer look then at Thrawn in detail. Okay, so here's Thrawn at a closer look. We'll do some articulation, and then we'll look at him in greater detail. I got the gloves on. I feel like I'm regal, like I'm maybe a Grand Admiral as well. But I just don't want to get this any more dirty than it already is going to get through time. But the head's on, I think, a ball joint, so he looks down really good. He looks back really good. And of course, he can turn his head, no problem. He can tilt it, really good. And then the arms go up, you know, just about 90, a little less, but not too bad. And then there is a ball, there is a, what do you call it? Bicep swivel. And then the elbows do bend. They don't bend very much. They only bend 90. Yeah, they don't bend very good. Not double jointed, I don't think, which is an interesting choice. The arms do drop. They shrug up. They go back and go forward. And then you can go forward because of the outfit. He doesn't go forward mine's not going forward very good at all. But yeah, not a lot of range because it gets tight right there at the suit. But I'm not going to have him in any type of crazy poses. I mean, he is a Grand Admiral. He's going to be standing here looking smart and strategic. But as far as the ball joint, he does crunch forward. He crunches back a bit. I'm not going to push it. He does rotate a little bit, and he does shrug. And that's on I think on a ratchet, the torso here. And the legs, boy, My figure doesn't want to move very much at all, but I don't get much movement from his leg. Maybe I want to push it. That's about all I get. Not a lot. The knees are on ratchets. I can feel them. They go up a little over 90. And then the boots are on ball joint. Some sort of joint. It's not really a ball joint. If you pull off the boot, you can see it's like just like a cylinder up here that pops into the bottom of the foot. But it gives you enough range, a little bit of rocker as well. So not too bad. You just gotta be careful. You don't want to do too many crazy poses with these boots. You don't want this pleather to start cracking over time. So there is a thigh swivel. You know, not the best articulation. At least I'm not going to push mine because I don't want to chance it. The belt does have some Velcro back here. And I do have the gun in the holster, which these holsters are very cheap leather. These are usually the first things to go. So, I mean, I've not had any problems with my figures, but over time, that's typically what starts to crack and peel. And it is on a magnet, so to hold and it's a pretty solid magnet. It clicked on really good right there. So yeah, but what I want to do now is kind of, well, these cylinders are all over the place. I almost would have preferred they had the cylinders like connected. But let's look at his face, his head sculpt a little bit closer. Take my gloves off because I can't zoom in without my gloves off. Okay, so there is the Thrawn head sculpt, and I think it looks really good. One thing I'm a little bummed out in, and again, I'm a Thrawn nerd, so it's part of my issue, is, you know, Zahn in his book always talked about his blue-black hair, and you can see blue on the highlights, but this is just completely black. And I think in the show it was the same, because I was looking for that. I don't ever remember seeing any Huddle's hints of any blue in his hair. But yeah, it's pretty much all black. It's not a huge deal, but for someone who's a nerd like me, for Thrawn, I like to see as accurate as possible. And then in the cartoon, he kind of had that V. You can kind of see it here. It's present a little bit, the way you turn him. He's got that V in his forehead. I guess they wanted to try and make him look, you know, more alien or just like whatever. And then there is his Grand Admiral pauldrons there. I wish these were more gold. They look almost like a bronze. And I wish they were, you know, this is based off the cartoon that they did, Rebels cartoon. But in the book, if I show you for a second here, you can see the pauldrons there. They have like the tassels. I would have loved to have that. It looks more regal to me, more defined or more refined than just these whatever these are, hard pieces of plastic. But I mean, again, I'm doing minor gripes because I'm such a huge nerd and fan over this character. I mean, Thrawn's my favorite Star Wars character, period. So it means a lot to me. But overall, I think it looks good. Even the eyes, you know, I would prefer just like no pupils. And just red eyes that glowed, but they do look good. He's painted really well. The paint apps are good as usual per Hot Toys. Now I think I saw a seam line though. If I move back this way, yeah, you can just see a faint seam line in the sculpt work right there. So I always don't like that, but it's not terrible. I've seen some worse. I think what's the girl from Guardians of the Galaxy, the blue girl? You could really see a seam line in her head quite a bit. But I think the face sculpt turned out phenomenal. Some people say it looks like Elon Musk. I don't see it. I see Lars Mikkelsen. I don't see Musk. It's crazy. But let's go ahead and get Thrawn in some poses now. Check them out. Okay, here's the first official one. You have to do the hands behind the back. And honestly, this might be how I display him. I don't care if it's a museum pose. This is Grand Admiral Thrawn, and this is what he does. So you can probably change the hands out to make him clasp better. I kept the hands on that came in the box just for this, you know, review, but you can make the hands, you know, get up better to actually come together better. But just as an example. The black base actually looks really good. I like that it's black and not gray. I think it turned out really good. And I got him kind of looking off to the distance, kind of thinking, planning his next move against the rebels. Man, what could have been the Thrawn trilogy? They could have made that as part of the movie, as the next movies. I know the main characters were too old by the time they did the prequels or the sequels, but oh man, it would have been so awesome seeing this movie 5 years after Return of the Jedi. Because the original Thrawn trilogy is set 5 years after Return of the Jedi. Would have been awesome to see this. Harrison Ford still, everyone together, going up against Grand Admiral Thrawn. Man. Anyway, I'm just geeking out over this. I still am very happy that I have a Thrawn figure in 1/6 scale. This is awesome. Let's try another pose. Okay, and here's Thrawn with the data pad, checking out the latest stats on how his master plan is working. Turned out really good. This is a really cool look. I still don't think I'll use the pad. Maybe I'll have it in one of his hands. I'm not sure how I'm going to pose this guy. I might go through a few poses, actually, as much as I love this guy, and change him out from time to time. But yeah. I mean, again, very simple. These hands hold the data pad really good. The hands are very pliable, which is nice. They're not hard, so it's easy to get this stuff in the hands. Awesome. Let's try another pose. Okay, and they give you these two hands to put them together, and in the blogger shot, it looks super awesome, but in real life, not so much. It's hard to keep the fingertips together, and one of the problems with this figure, probably the biggest blight on it, is you can really see the wrist pegs in this figure. And once that suit gets stretched out, I mean, it's not very pleasing to look at. But if you got kind of an upshot like this with the fingers, maybe something like that, and you cut this out, you might be able to make it look kind of cool. I had thought about posing him this way, but now that I'm doing it, and maybe I have to play with it more, but it's just not the best look, in my opinion. Okay, and here's another pose, which is pretty cool. You can kind of get him like in deep contemplation with his hand up by his chin, like he's thinking about his next move, his attack on the rebels. And, besides that nasty looking ball joint, this is a pretty cool look right here. Yeah, look at that. That is really cool. Fix these code cylinders a little bit. Man, that'd be a cool shot right there. Just get that hand like that. Yeah. Man, this is cool. I'm really digging this. Let's go ahead and do a couple comparisons. Okay, and here's the Grand Admiral next to Bo-Katan and Ahsoka. And that's the Ahsoka from Mandalorian, not the Ahsoka show. I don't plan on getting any more Ahsokas. This one's fine for me. But Thrawn comes in at 12 and a half inches tall. He's pretty tall figure. And his base is a little bit bigger, higher than Bo-Katan's and, of course, Ahsoka. So that's why he looks so much taller, but still, these look pretty cool together. Okay, and here he is next to Luke Skywalker from The Mandalorian. And just think about this. Mandalorian takes place 5 years after Return of the Jedi. And the original Thrawn trilogy took place 5 years after Return of the Jedi. So this might be the closest we ever get in the current state of Disney owning Star Wars, where we have a Luke Skywalker that would have been at this point in his career going up against Thrawn. This is so cool. I'm so excited to see these two side by side. Unfortunately, it's never going to happen. At least, I don't know, it might. Who knows what's going to happen with Thrawn in the Disney show. If they're going to kill him off, they probably will kill him off. I hope they don't. Will he ever come across Luke in Disney Star Wars? Remains to be seen. But man, if I saw this Mando Luke going up against this Thrawn in the Disney stuff, I would be all in. All in. But yeah, man, let's just get Grogu out of there for a second and pretend this is Heir to the Empire. Oh man, maybe like The Last Command, the third book, when he's, Mara Jade's there and he fights Mara. Oh my gosh, good times. That's pure Star Wars to me. Okay, so end of the day, is this figure worth it? For me, absolutely. Even though this, I would prefer EU Thrawn. I'd take this thing in a heartbeat. I pre-ordered it day one when it was released or up for pre-order, and I think it's worth it. There's a couple things I'm not fond of. I'm not fond of the fact that you have to use 3M to glue this thing to this big round um, hologram, battlefield, and it takes up a lot of space. Let me measure it real quick for you guys, just real quick. So it comes in at 6¼ inches wide. So think about that sitting, in your DTOF. It's going to take up a lot of space. So I just don't think for me this is worth it. Even though the Chimera is cool, the hologram, it's just not something I'm going to probably use in my display. For pictures, absolutely. And this data pad is really cool. Comes with some cool accessories, but just having Thrawn displayed like this makes me happy. And so this guy, if I remember, was when I got him, I pre-ordered him for $255. I think he's now $260. So I'm not sure if Sideshow raised their prices by $5 in the last couple years, but I got him for $255, and he's still up for pre-order on Sideshow for $260, and it shows September, October release, and even BBTS has them, Big Bad Toy Store, but it's more. It's like $269, like $270, and that shows a release of March 2025 on BBTS. So you'll pay less shipping on BBTS, but you spend $10 more, and you wait longer. So that's up to you. But man, this is one of my Grail figures. Even though it's not EU Thrawn, it's Disney Thrawn. I'm okay. I'm happy to have this figure. And this is the first Star Wars Hot Toys figure I've gotten all year. I have the Vader coming soon. Apart from that, not a lot from Star Wars. I've not been too happy with the direction Disney's taken it personally, apart from like The Mandalorian and some of the stuff in Ahsoka. But otherwise, let me know what you guys think of this figure. Do you have them? How do you think about, the original Thrawn, the EU Thrawn versus Disney Thrawn? Did he hold up to your expectations in the film? And what do you think of this figure? I think the head sculpt is phenomenal. The blue pops so good. Looks so nice against this white uniform. Very regal figure. So I'm very happy. So until next time, this has been Hot Toys Grand Admiral Thrawn. Thanks for watching.